Staggering, and it is growing worse by the second. Take a look at this debt clock, $234 billion. According to one incredible estimate, the debt goes up by $30 million each and every day. The runaway debt is caused by factors that are widely known, such as living beyond our means and all sorts of generous social programs out there that we have here in Quebec. The so-called debt clock is quite frightening. Vincent Geloso is with the Montreal Economic Institute. Really, we are living beyond our means. You guys have been hammering home this message for years now. Putting up that debt clock is a real sort of, bright light shining at us that says, you got to wake up here.
Yeah, actually, we have to remember this debt clock is going up at the rate of 1.2 million an hour. It's $21,000 a minute. This is actually a sign that it is the pay now, buy now, pay later mentality, which is a good indicator of the fact that we have lived for a very long time beyond our means, and it is time to identify ways for us to cut back on spending and actually get the debt reined in.
We talked about some of the generous social programs that are out there, and the budget came out, the provincial budget, last Thursday. An austere budget. Tuition is going to be going up, and there are a number of other things that are going to be done in order to try to rein in. Is this aggressive enough, though, I guess?
Well, the last budget was, on one point, there was some good measures, but overall, let's remember that the government had projected the deficit to go up $2.9 billion last year. Right now, they said it's going to be 3.8. So the government actually undershot its estimate and is spending way more than it projected. This means spending is completely out of control, and it needs to be reined in very fast so we can stop piling more debt to this $234 billion debt, and we need to start cutting it back. So this is something we would have wished to see in the budget, but we didn't.
What exactly is it that we are spending this money on? Like, why are we so out of whack here?
Well, mostly because of the fact, healthcare is the biggest spending post, but there's also a lot of programs we have, like childcare services, which we have huge blanket programs that don't help.
$7 a day daycare, for example.
Exactly. Let's remember that since 1997, when the program started, the number of places only increased by 2.5 times, while costs increased by 6.6 times, which means there's a lot of money being lost on children. There's not much being helped for children if costs are going up that high. There are ways of identifying, reforming CPR, for example, of targeting people according to their income, which would be much more fair and actually much more cheaper to target according to income.
Right, so sort of like a staggered model depending on how much you make. Also, we know that we're very taxed, highly taxed in Quebec as well. And I guess it's one thing if you have like a trade-off between high taxes but really generous social programs. But in this case, it seems we have high taxes, generous social programs, but also a $240 billion debt that's growing. So we can't have our cake and eat it too.
Well, this is exactly that. You've made a very correct point. We can't have our cake and eat it too. But remember the fact that the deficit is actually beyond our means, and we're asking a lot of Quebecers right now. The size of the government, what it asks from Quebecers is among the highest in North America, and it is probably time to look at the spending column and start cutting it back.
One question. You guys have been talking about this for a long time, a bit of a voice in the wilderness out there in terms of getting this to resonate with people. Do you think people are starting to get the message, though? I mean, we look at some of these new political parties that are kind of percolating out there, what happened to the ADQ, but now this thing with François Legault. I mean, is it resonating with Quebecers? Well,
when we put out the debt clock, the updated version on the website, we've had thousands of clicks. I mean, we've had a lot of visits. Our little movie we've put on YouTube that illustrates the size of the debt. We've got thousands of clicks. People are very concerned by the message. This poll this morning that came out by Léger Marketing, 73% of Quebecers think it's a problem and they're concerned by it. It is a problem. People are highly aware, and this, I might say, the MEI has done a great job at raising the awareness towards the problem of the debt.
I want to thank you for coming in.
It was a pleasure.
We'll have you back at some point, no doubt. Thanks very much. Lori Graham is standing by the